So right at 10 years to the day of my last court date, my final disposition, the judgment and all that, right at 7 years after my probation is all over and done, I get this letter in the mail from the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. Now, I was really kind of hoping that it might be to tell me my registration requirements are all over and I don't have to put up with this nonsense anymore, especially being right at the 10-year date. But I was wrong. It wasn't. It was just more fines, penalties, and more BS to put up with and more hoops to jump through and more often. It says June 17th, 2011, R.E. Notice of Amendments to the Kansas Offender Registration Act. Dear Registered Offender, they call them all offenders now, at least here in Kansas anyway. There's just a whole lot of things that'll put somebody on this never-ending and always increasing retroactive scheme thing. But I guess maybe I'm not a sex offender anymore. Maybe I'm just one of them offenders. I don't know. Then it says, this is a courtesy letter to let you know the Kansas Registration Act has been amended by the Kansas legislature and signed into law by the governor. Effective July 1st, 2011, numerous changes will apply to offenders required to register pursuant to the Kansas Offender Registration Act, KSA 22-4901 ETSCQ, and all that. Then it's got a website address, full details of the 2011 Senate Bill 37. Now, I'm not going to go through all that. Well, not now anyway. Maybe that'll make another movie. So anyway, I get a letter from the KBI 10 years after my court case, almost to the day of my suspended imposition of sentence and final judgment and all that, and they're sending me a courtesy letter to tell me about it, and it's all okay. It's just one of those retroactive regulatory scheme things. But the really sorry and really disgusting and even slightly amusing part is how they try to explain it here in the second part. It says, this letter serves as notification of the key changes and statutory obligations. The Kansas Offender Registration Act is a regulatory scheme that is civil and non-punitive. Now, if it was civil and non-punitive, why even send me the damn letter? At least they got part of it right. It's a scheme, all right. And therefore, all provisions are retroactive. At least they put it out there in black and white. Retroactive and ex post facto law, and apply to offenders regardless of when their underlying offenses occurred. Smith v. Doe, 538 U.S. 84, 2003. So I guess they're trying to use some case from 2003 to rationalize or to justify this retroactive regulatory scheme thing. Now, in 2003, it didn't cost me anything, zero, no money at all to register, and I only did it once a year, and mostly just a whole heck of a lot less stuff to try to deal with and to keep up with, and even more time to do it. I guess they're trying to compare it to a civil court type case or a civil law, kind of like registering your vehicle, maybe driver's license or property type stuff. I don't know, maybe even getting married or divorced, I guess. But if it's called civil, a civil type law, why wouldn't you go to a civil court, or wouldn't it be a civil type case? Now, I can see it being civil if maybe you had to go down there and register once a year, and it didn't cost anything, and then if you missed your appointment, it was a fine, or maybe you had to go to a civil court, or it was a civil type case. But no, it's a felony. They make it a felony, a serious felony, kind of like going down to the tag office to re-register your car, and then find out you're a little late, and so they take your car, you get thrown in jail for a felony, and they call it civil, and oh yeah, they try to call it non-punitive too. I guess it's kind of like having the civil part being on the lawmaking side, but still on the other side make it a felony of the very same retroactive scheme thing. So I guess it's kind of like one of them oxymorons that just make me clearly confused, and it's kind of seriously funny. But anyway, there's a lot here. I'm not going to go through all of it. Some of it's about the same, just more general BS. Now it's 4 times a year at $20 a pop, cash only. So now $80 a year. Now it's not the $20 that's a real pain, which it can be sometimes, but mostly all that other stuff that would even make having to re-register your car 4 times a year look easy and simple, even if it was a felony if you didn't do it on time. And that's just one county. It could very easily be more. Just live and work in one different county or different state, especially here in like the Kansas City area. Well, at least they're not trying to make me renew my driver's license any more often or add any more to the now once every year that I got to do it now. Well, so far anyway, probably the next batch of new retroactive schemes they come up with. Then there's another really disgusting and really pathetic part of this courtesy letter. Here at number 4, register in person within 3 days upon beginning, changing, terminating the offender's residence, location, employment status, school attendance, or other information. Other information, I guess they put that as kind of a catch-all for anything, I don't know, to the law enforcement agency or agencies were last registered, and to also provide written notice to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. Now all this within 3 days? Now it's hard enough for somebody on this offender list to even get a job. And so then when they do get a job, I guess they're supposed to take off on their 2nd day of a new job. Now I don't suppose the sheriff's office now stays open in the evening, so at least they could do it after work. So I guess they should take off for a few hours sometime on their 2nd day. Or maybe live dangerously and take off on the 3rd day of their new job, and then very well even lose the new job because they can't even work a full day the 1st week of their new job, and then even have to do it all over again, now being newly unemployed. Or just think of some poor guy that has to go through a lot of jobs, temp-type jobs, maybe week-long type jobs, a few days here and there, wherever and whenever he can, and then have to go down to the sheriff's office once a week, or even more, or it's a felony, and then really try to call it civil, really try to call it non-punitive. Somebody could be on probation, or even just get out of prison and be on parole and not have to put up with that kind of nonsense. Then here's another little part of this retroactive regulatory scheme thing. The duration of registration, adult offenders. This is a list of the things that will make somebody an offender for the minimum 15 years. Sexual battery, adultery. Now, I never heard of anybody getting arrested or convicted of adultery, yet anyway, but it sure could add one heck of a lot of people on this offender registry scheme thing. And then they got patronizing a prostitute. Now, I guess something that is legal in another state like Nevada can put somebody on this offender registry for 15 years. Something that goes on all the time every day at some place like, say, the Mustang Ranch could get somebody on this offender registry, but even worse, under the same always changing and always increasing retroactive scheme thing. And then they got lewd and lascivious behavior. Now, I don't know what I'll get somebody arrested for lewd and lascivious behavior, but I think this letter is the most lewd thing that I have ever seen. That is for sure. Now, it's not in alphabetical order, so maybe it's some kind of a prioritized list. I don't know. But then below that, they got capital murder, murder in the 1st degree, murder in the 2nd degree, voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, criminal restraint. I guess anyway, that order looks like it just kind of fits right in and along with this screwed up and very wrong definition of civil and non-punitive anyway. Now there's even some other things here that are under the minimum duration. using a deadly weapon, manufacturing drugs, possession of some chemicals. Quite a few things can get somebody on this offender registry for the minimum amount of time, 15 years. Then they got a list for the 25-year duration. Then they got the lifetime offenses, like what I got somehow, some way, I'm not sure how. I think it's somehow because my case is from another state or something. I don't know. It's nuts. Then they got more fields here. Pretty much covers about everything a person can do, I guess, or just about anyway. And then they got a little here for the Indian type offenders, I guess that live on an Indian reservation. And then another catch-all here. All other requirements of the Kansas Offender Registration Act remain in effect. I guess that's maybe all the stuff from the last amending, of the last increasing, of the last retroactive scheme things. And then they got here at the end, should you have any questions regarding your obligations, please contact your attorney. Now, I guess I'm supposed to and probably should hire an attorney for a decade-old finalized court case with any questions, or to try to make some sense out of this courtesy letter and what I need to keep up with, or what I should or shouldn't do, or what I should look out for and all that, and all for this very same and so-called civil and non-punitive scheme. Or the sheriff of the county in which you are required to register. Now, I know the sheriff isn't any legal expert, and they got enough to do and to try to keep up with all this stuff. But maybe they get some kind of little booklet or pamphlet or something about it. I don't know. You could probably ask 2 or 3 different sheriffs the same question and get 2 or 3 different answers. You could probably ask 2 or 3 different lawyers some of this stuff and get a few different opinions, especially seeing that this retroactive scheme thing is an ex post facto law and really should violate those old and neglected constitutional protections that were created to prevent these kind of schemes. But that's just my opinion. But maybe I got a pretty good view of it anyway, seeing how I'm in it, under it, put up with it, stuck with it, and certainly agonize over my lifetime sentence of it every day. And then it says, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation cannot provide you legal advice. Heck yeah, they're going to stay clear out of it. I don't blame them. They sure didn't do it. They're not the lawmakers of this scheme thing. I'm surprised they even got them to write this letter. I mean, it is a courtesy letter. Well, that's about it. The condensed version, anyway. Well, thanks a lot for your time and your interest. I just get so sick and so tired of this never-ending and always increasing, pathetic, disgusting, and mostly just plain wrong retroactive scheme thing that I guess I just had to make a movie about it too. Oh well, thanks for listening and watching. Thanks again. Bye.